Part 1. The phone call that changed everything. My granddaughter called me on a Tuesday evening. I remember it was a Tuesday because I'd just finished my crossword puzzle, the one I do every week without fail. She said, "Grandma, we've been thinking," and before she finished the sentence, something in my chest already knew. I'm 79 years old, and I want to tell you something that most people never say out loud about growing old. The hardest part isn't the aching joints in the morning. It isn't forgetting where you put your reading glasses. It isn't even the grief of outliving people you loved. The hardest part is the moment you realize other people have begun quietly making decisions about your life, and it doesn't begin with cruelty. That's the part nobody warns you about. It begins with love. It begins with worried voices and careful looks and people who care about you saying gentle things like, "We just want you to be safe." Safe. That word starts following you everywhere once you reach a certain age. And if you aren't paying attention, safe slowly becomes another way of saying invisible. If you're younger, maybe you're thinking about someone in your own life right now. A parent who moves a little more carefully than they used to. An aunt who doesn't drive after dark anymore. Someone you love who has started to seem smaller somehow. And if you're closer to my age, maybe you recognize the feeling from the inside, the sense that people are watching you a little too closely, offering help before you've asked for it, discussing your future in careful voices, as if you've already begun to leave the room. I want to share what that journey has looked like for me, because I don't think enough people talk honestly about what aging actually feels like from the inside. Not the medical side, the human side. The quiet, daily negotiation of trying to remain yourself when the world keeps suggesting you become something smaller. Stay with me, because what happened next changed everything I thought I understood about getting old. Part 2. The slow disappearing. My husband Bernard died 8 years ago, 41 years married, and then one morning, silence. For the first few months, I kept his routines alive almost by instinct. Coffee at 6:30, plants watered by 8, classical music in the kitchen while I folded laundry. I even kept cooking full meals for a while, roasted chicken, vegetable soups, the things we'd eaten together for decades. Then I stopped. You don't fully understand how much cooking is connected to love until there is nobody left waiting at the table. After Bernard died, I began eating simpler things, soup from a can, half a sandwich, a boiled egg, things that didn't require effort and didn't fill the kitchen with the smell of something meant for two. I told everyone I was doing fine, and for a long while, I even believed it. The strange truth about aging is that it doesn't announce itself. It arrives in quiet moments, ordinary ones. You carry a bag of groceries inside and need to sit down after. You stop taking the highway because nighttime driving makes you anxious. You step around the stool in the kitchen instead of climbing it. Small adjustments, one after another, tiny negotiations you make with yourself that you barely notice until one day you look back and realize how much territory you've surrendered. I remember standing in the grocery store one afternoon, holding a heavy jug of juice. My wrist ached, just faintly, just enough. A young woman at the register looked at me with that particular expression, the one you don't see until you're old enough to recognize it, and asked if I needed help getting to my car. I thanked her and said no, but her look stayed with me all afternoon, because 10 years earlier, nobody had looked at me that way. And I realized, standing in the parking lot, that strangers had begun to see something in me I hadn't yet fully accepted in myself. The question is, what do you do when the world starts seeing you differently before you're ready? Part 3. When home stops feeling safe. A few weeks after the grocery store moment, I was carrying laundry down the staircase. I stopped halfway down. Not because I stumbled, not because anything went wrong. I stopped because I suddenly became aware, truly aware, of how serious falling would be, of what it would mean. That's the shift nobody prepares you for. When you're young, your body moves without commentary. At a certain age, the commentary begins. You start picturing the risk before you take the step. I stood there on those stairs, holding the laundry basket against my hip, and I thought, when did this become something I have to calculate? That thought frightened me more than any physical pain ever had. A few days later, I slipped in the laundry room. Just a quick stumble. I caught myself against the washing machine and didn't fall. But my heart raced for several minutes afterward. I sat down on the floor beside a spilled bottle of detergent and just breathed. And for the first time in my life, a thought entered my mind that I couldn't shake. If something truly happened to me, how long before anyone realized? That kind of thought changes something inside you, especially at night. Nights become a different creature when you live alone and you're getting older. Sounds feel louder, aches feel more significant, silences stretch longer than they ever did before. A few weeks passed, then my granddaughter called again. Her voice was measured, careful, too prepared. She said she and her partner had been talking. They felt I shouldn't be living alone anymore. I looked around my kitchen while she spoke. Bernard's reading chair near the window, the faded curtains we'd chosen together decades ago, the ceramic dish where I've always kept my keys. All of it suddenly felt precarious. Not physically, emotionally, as if someone had stepped quietly into the room and begun deciding what could stay. I told her I'd think about it. Then I sat at the kitchen table for nearly an hour, alone, not crying, just thinking. Because here's what made it so complicated. She wasn't entirely wrong. Part 4. Moving in. I called my granddaughter back 9 days later. I told her that staying with her family for a while might not be a terrible idea. The relief in her voice cut through me in a way I hadn't expected. "Oh, thank goodness," she breathed, as if she had been holding that breath for weeks. They prepared the upstairs guest room. My great-nephew helped carry boxes. Everyone smiled a great deal and spoke in cheerful voices, and during the first few days, I almost let myself be convinced. The house was alive in a way mine hadn't been in years. Cabinet doors, footsteps, voices overlapping in conversation. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't sitting down to dinner alone. That meant more than I can properly explain. Loneliness changes your standards. You stop hoping for excitement. You just want another person to say good morning to. Someone who asks how you slept. But things shifted slowly. Little things at first. One evening after dinner, I was rinsing plates at the sink. My granddaughter-in-law touched my arm. "Don't worry about those," she said. "Go sit down." She meant it kindly. She was kind. But I had spent 60 years doing things for other people. Cooking, washing, caring for everyone else before myself. And now, suddenly, my only role was to sit down and rest and be careful. I told myself I was being oversensitive, but the small moments accumulated. The television volume always slightly too loud. The way everyone's posture changed slightly when I moved through the kitchen during the morning rush. The way people waited patiently when I rose from a chair, as if they were bracing for something. Nobody complained, nobody was unkind, but there is something deeply difficult about being the reason a household holds its breath. One afternoon I offered to collect my great-nephew from school. My granddaughter said quickly, "It's already handled." Handled. I carried that word around with me all afternoon, because suddenly I realized everything in my life was becoming handled, arranged, managed, and I wasn't sure when I had agreed to that. Part 5. What I overheard. One night, late, I was walking down the hallway toward the kitchen for a glass of water. I heard voices downstairs, my granddaughter and her partner, talking in the low tones that people use when they don't want to be overheard. I stood still in the dark hallway. I didn't catch every word, but I heard enough. Something about schedules changing. Something about how tired everything had become. And then, quietly, the words, "I love having her here. I'm just exhausted all the time." I stood there for a long moment. Then I walked quietly back to the guest room and sat on the edge of the bed. The thing that hurt most wasn't the words. It was the fact that they were true. I knew they were true. They loved me. I never doubted that, not for a moment. But love cannot remove the weight of an altered household. It cannot eliminate the extra errand, the adjusted schedule, the quiet monitoring. Aging adds weight to the people around you, whether anybody says it out loud or not. That night at dinner, everything looked the same as always. My great-nephew talked about his football team. Someone laughed at something on television. My granddaughter asked if I wanted seconds, and I smiled and passed the bread and felt myself growing quieter, smaller, like someone slowly dimming a light in the corner of the room. That was the night something shifted inside me. Not dramatically, quietly. I had spent months focused on the question of safety. Was I safe living alone? Was I safe on the stairs? Was I safe without someone nearby? But lying in the guest room that night, listening to the house settle around me, I understood that safety wasn't the real question anymore. The real question was this: what happens when your life slowly becomes something that belongs to other people? That question would follow me for months, and the answer, when it finally came, was nothing I expected. Part 6. The brochures. My granddaughter brought the brochures on a Wednesday morning. She set them on the kitchen table with a smile that was trying very hard to be casual. Senior living communities, color, photographs of couples playing lawn games, bright dining rooms, women in yoga classes all wearing the same soft expressions. Everything looked calm, organized, safe, and somehow that frightened me more than anything else had. I left the brochures untouched for 2 days. Every time I walked past them, I felt a strange tightening in my chest. Not anger exactly, but something close to it, something like grief, as if my future had already been decided by someone else, and I was only now being informed. On the 3rd morning, my granddaughter called. "You don't have to decide anything yet," she said softly. "I've learned that this is what people say right before choices begin disappearing." I told her I was still thinking. What I didn't say was that I was exhausted. Exhausted from worrying. Exhausted from fighting every small change as if surrender were a moral failure. Because here is the part nobody tells you about growing old. It isn't only the body that tires, it's the decision-making. Every day becomes a quiet negotiation. Can I still manage this? Is it safe to do that alone? Should I ask for help, or will asking feel like losing? The calculations never stop, and calculations are lonely work. I tried returning to my own house after that. Tried rebuilding the old rhythms, morning coffee, laundry on Wednesdays, weekly phone calls. For a time, I almost convinced myself it was working. Then one afternoon, I forgot a step in a soup recipe I had been making for 30 years. Just one step. But I stood in the kitchen staring at the pot, and a grief came over me that I wasn't prepared for. Not grief for Bernard, though he was woven into that recipe like everything else. Grief for myself. For the woman who used to move through her kitchen without having to think. Sometimes aging doesn't feel like losing strength. Sometimes it feels like slowly losing fluency in your own life. And that, I think, is one of the loneliest feelings there is. Part 7. Becoming smaller. My granddaughter drove me to a medical appointment that spring. A routine visit. Blood pressure, lab work, nothing serious. The doctor came in smiling warmly, then spent the first several minutes of the appointment speaking to my granddaughter. Has she been sleeping well? Any recent falls? Is she eating enough? I sat quietly in the paper-covered chair and listened to people discuss me. At one point I answered a question directly. The doctor nodded politely at me, then redirected her attention to my granddaughter. I don't think she realized she was doing it. That's the thing about invisibility at this age. It's rarely intentional. People don't decide to look past you. They simply redirect their attention naturally, without noticing. Afterward, while my granddaughter picked up a prescription, I waited near the pharmacy section. A young employee passing by smiled at me and said, "You hanging in there, sweetheart?" I know people mean well when they say things like that. But at a certain point, being spoken to softly and carefully all the time starts reshaping something inside you. You begin feeling less like an adult and more like something that needs to be handled gently, less like a person with opinions and more like a situation. That night I looked at myself in the bathroom mirror for a long time. Not with vanity. I moved past vanity years ago, just looking. And I realized something difficult. Other people had started seeing me as old before I had fully accepted it in myself. That gap, between how the world sees you and how you still experience yourself on the inside, is something I wasn't prepared for. A week later, my granddaughter and I went out for lunch. When the server came to take our order, I spoke first. The server looked at my granddaughter, and for her, my granddaughter began to answer before catching herself. I said clearly, "I'll have the turkey sandwich." The server apologized immediately. My granddaughter looked embarrassed. But the moment lasted long after lunch was over, because I realized I had stopped being expected to speak for myself, and I hadn't even noticed it happening. Part 8. Inside the community. I agreed to visit the senior living community on a Thursday afternoon. My granddaughter held the glass door open for me and watched my face carefully the whole time, the way you watch someone's face when you're waiting for them to cry. The lobby smelled faintly of coffee and cleaning products. Soft music filtered in from somewhere. Everything was clean, orderly, well lit, and something about that unsettled me immediately, because beautiful, orderly spaces can still feel profoundly lonely. The director was warm and practiced. She knew exactly how to speak to families who were frightened. She showed us the dining room, white tablecloths, real flowers, the activity room, painting classes, film screenings, morning exercise, the courtyard, benches, a fountain, tended garden beds. Every hour of every day already arranged in advance. You won't have to worry about meals, she said. You won't have to worry about transportation. You won't have to worry about being alone. Each sentence was meant to comfort me, and each sentence made me feel slightly smaller. Because what she was describing, gently and with great care, was a life in which nothing depended on me anymore. No errands to run, no decisions to make, no risk. We passed a man asleep in a chair, near a window, a television murmuring in front of him. Nobody was speaking to him. Nobody, in that moment, needed him. I looked at him longer than I should have, and a thought crossed my mind that I've never been able to forget. What if this is what disappearing looks like? Not death, just becoming unnecessary, very gradually, while everyone around you calls it care. They showed us a room upstairs, small but clean, a narrow window, a single shelf for books, a kitchenette along one wall, everything exactly where it should be. Nothing out of place, nothing worn. My granddaughter said softly, "This could really work." I nodded, but I was thinking, nothing in this room has a past. Nothing here carries a memory. This is a room waiting for someone's final chapter to begin. That thought stayed with me through lunch, through the drive home, and deep into the sleepless night that followed. Part 9. The Trade. I moved into the community on a trial basis. That's what I told myself. Temporary. My granddaughter looked so relieved that I had to turn away. We packed carefully the next morning. 3 sweaters, 2 framed photographs, my medications, a quilt I've had for 30 years, Bernard's watch. I almost packed his slippers too, then stopped myself. That small moment nearly undid me because I understood what I was really doing, editing my entire life down into what would fit inside one room. The first night was not frightening. It was something worse, controlled. Dinner at 5, a wellness check at 7. Corridor lights dimmed at 9. Everything moved with a practiced smoothness, as though the building itself had learned to keep things quiet. A staff member knocked on my door at 8:30. Just checking in. I thanked her. After she left, I sat in the silence and realized I hadn't had a single unobserved moment all day. The people were kind to me. I want to say that plainly and honestly, because it matters. Nobody was unkind, not once. But suffering doesn't always require cruelty. Sometimes it only requires erasure. Slowly, things disappeared. My electric kettle, a safety concern. The small rug beside my bed, a fall risk. One evening I wanted to sit outside to watch the light change at dusk. Bernard used to call that hour the golden quiet. I walked to the courtyard door, and a young staff member stopped me gently. Courtyard closes at 7. I looked through the glass at the empty benches, at the beautiful, unreachable evening light. I said I only wanted a few minutes. She smiled apologetically. Rules are rules. Rule. I sat on my bed afterward and stared at the wall for a long time, because I finally understood the exchange being offered to me. Safety for agency, comfort for ownership, protection for freedom. And perhaps that exchange becomes necessary eventually. Perhaps it even becomes welcome, but I wasn't ready yet. One night I stayed up past 9:30, reading. A knock at my door. "Everything all right in here?" "Yes," I said. "I'm just reading." She looked surprised. "Well, try to get some sleep." I had raised children, buried a husband, managed a home for 4 decades, sat with grief and come through the other side. And now someone was monitoring my bedtime. Something inside me cracked that night. Not loudly, just quietly, the way the most important things always break. Part 10. Coming home. My granddaughter visited on a rainy Wednesday evening. She looked tired in the way that people look when they've been worried for a very long time. We sat together near the window and watched rain move through the parking lot lights. She said, "You seem calmer here." Calmer. I thought about that word. I was quieter. That's not the same thing. After a while, she said something that broke me open in a way I hadn't expected. "I finally sleep at night knowing you're safe." And I looked at her face, really looked, and I saw the exhaustion there, the guilt, the fear she had been carrying for months. Because here is something younger people don't always see. Caregiving disappears a person too. The child managing an aging parent while managing their own life slowly becomes invisible in a different way. Everyone gets tired. Nobody says it because love makes honesty feel like cruelty. I reached over and took her hand. Then I looked at the hallway outside my door, the wheelchair, the medication cart, the soft fluorescent light, and I finally said what I had been circling around for months. "I feel like I'm disappearing here." Her eyes filled immediately. "I know you're trying to help me." Then she said, "I don't know what else to do." We sat together for a long time after that. Two people who loved each other, both frightened, both trying desperately not to fail the other. 4 days later, I moved back home. Life did not suddenly become easy. I still drop things sometimes. I still have nights that stretch too long. There are mornings when my body feels much older than my mind has caught up with. But something fundamental changed when I came home. I stopped looking for someone to rescue me, and I started looking for ways to remain connected, on my own terms. A young mother in my neighborhood was overwhelmed, always rushing. I saw her one afternoon sitting in her car, crying quietly, her little boy waiting beside the mailbox with a backpack nearly as big as he was. I almost kept walking. Then I didn't. I asked if she'd ever want help with school pickup. That small question changed my life. Her son started coming to my house after school twice a week. He sat at my kitchen table and told me about dinosaurs and terrible jokes, and I made grilled cheese sandwiches, and my house felt alive again, not managed alive. Genuinely, messily, wonderfully alive. After a while, small things accumulated naturally. Neighbors helped with a porch light. I watered plants during someone's vacation. People stopped looking at me like a burden and started looking at me like someone still present, still useful, still here. One afternoon, the little boy taped a drawing to my refrigerator. It showed the two of us standing in the kitchen. Above our heads, in careful letters, he had written, "She makes everything better." I stood looking at that drawing for a long time, and I understood what had nearly disappeared. Not my independence, not my strength, my sense of mattering to someone. People don't disappear only when they die. Sometimes they disappear slowly, while everyone around them is busy keeping them safe. That is the truth I wish someone had told me. That older people need care. Yes, of course we do. But we also need usefulness, reciprocity, a reason someone is glad we're still here. I am 79 years old. Some mornings still frighten me. Some nights are harder than I'll admit. And someday, I may truly need more than my neighbors can offer. I'm not pretending otherwise. But today, my life belongs to me. And today, that is enough.